From Brandon. I thought I was going to die. Welcome. And so we're going that's it. That's all 5 of us. Good afternoon. Look at it, 2 o'clock already. I am calling to order the special meeting of Wednesday, March 19th, 2025, 2 p.m. Can we please have a roll call?
Councilmember Carnevale?
Here.
Councilmember Lamb?
Here.
Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregory? Mayor Ross?
I'm here, thank you. And we don't have any changes to the agenda, do we? Perfect, then I will waste no more time inviting a staffing review of the police department for information, discussion, and direction only. Good afternoon. How are you, Chief?
Excellent, Mayor.
Good.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, city staff, and community members. So here we are today to go through the police department budget for our next 2-year budget cycle. There we go. So as every other department either has done or will do moving forward, you're able to get a look at our historical staffing from fiscal year 13-14, moving over to our COVID year 2021, and then 22-23, and what our current numbers are. So you can see on the sworn side, we have increased our numbers over the last almost 11 years now. And dispatchers, we have dipped in numbers there. Records and support, we have increased. So our total increase from 2013-2014 is an 8.1% in full-time employees. Here's a look at our organizational chart. As we go through this budget presentation, you will see that the organization is broken down into 3 divisions. That would be Support Services Division, which primarily deals with our dispatch, property evidence, our record specialists. So pretty much on a non-sworn side of the police department from an employee perspective. Next, we have our Investigations Division, which speaks for itself. That's where our investigations are completed and or assigned. Once a patrol officer takes a crime report and there's follow-up to be done, that goes into the Investigations Division. And our most robust is our Operations Division, which is our patrol division, our motorcycle officers, our homeless liaison officers, our citizens on patrol fall under that, and our CSOs and our PSA. You have a question, sir?
Yes, I was wondering whether I should ask it now or let you get on, but maybe it's better just to ask it. So, and it's really has more to do with the previous slide, but you show the dispatchers had gone from 16 to 13, and I know just last meeting there was an addition of some dispatchers so you could begin the emergency medical dispatching. So is that included here? Is that part of the 13, or is that going to get you to 15?
No, we will be at 13 if council approves the additional 2 dispatchers. So I currently have 10 full-time. 2 part-time equals 1 full-time. So that brings me to 11. And then based on the fire chief's presentation, I included those 2 positions in my staffing numbers with the hopes council will approve that for us to move forward with EMD on July 1st.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a couple of questions. So on that, are the 2 dispatchers you're speaking of and fire speaking of 2 in the same?
Correct.
Or are you talking about, okay. And then can you go to the next slide that you had?
Forward?
Forward, please.
Yes.
I noticed that when you list your different employees, there's a couple I'm not sure about. You don't list anybody in the Explorer post. I don't expect you to, but you had a part-time background person, and you do not list that as an actual number.
Right. We have 3 part-time background investigators, but they are included in our support staff. So they would be a 1.5 full-time employee having 3 part-timers.
And they fall under what? I'm sorry, can you tell me again?
They fall under, they're assigned to investigations,
Okay,
but they are in the records and support numbers on this slide.
okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So administration, what does that consist of personnel-wise? That's myself, our new Deputy Chief of Police, our Professional Standards Bureau Sergeant, our PAC Team Sergeant, our PAC Team Detective, our Senior Analyst, and our Analyst 2. That is what makes up police administration currently. Field services. And this was something I was trying to do over the last 4 years, which we were able to accomplish with support of this council by bringing in a deputy police chief into the administration side. That allowed me to go to 3 commanders. So instead of 4 commanders, we promoted 1 to deputy chief. And out of the 3 commanders, 2 of them were assigned to our patrol division, because I feel it's important to have as much coverage as I can at that middle manager rank, overseeing our patrol staff. So currently I have 2 commanders assigned to field services. They cover 6 days a week. We have 5 sergeants in field services who cover 7 days a week, 27 officers, again 7 days, 24/7 basically. Our 3 record specialists, which is Monday through Friday coverage at our front desk. We have 2 community service officers who cover 7 days a week, with our police service assistant, which is a limited term position currently, and I'll talk about that later in my presentation. And she covers 4 days a week for us. And give or take, we have 9 or 10 citizens on patrol. So patrol is comprised of 4 patrol teams. Team 1 is a sergeant and 4 officers. They work Thursday, Friday, Saturday day shift. Team 2 is a sergeant and 5 officers. They work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday day shift. Team 3 is a sergeant with 6 officers. Tends to be our busier shift, which is Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. Team 4 is a sergeant and 5 officers on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights. Each patrol team works every other Sunday. Therefore, that's how we gain our 7-day coverage out on the streets. As you know, this council supported the standing up of our traffic bureau, and that consists of 1 traffic sergeant who rides a motorcycle and 3 motorcycle officers, and they cover 6 days a week in the city. We were able to add an additional homeless liaison officer, so we have 2 who handle 6-day-a-week coverage in our city. And I currently have 1 police officer who's currently in our field training officer program.
Chief, can I just ask a question? You might get into this a little bit later, it might be
Sure.
too early, but, you know, like the fire chief mentioned, he has a full staff, but he's got 9 or so employees out. So when you're saying all these duties and all these shifts are covered, they're covered no matter if you have officers on vacation or sick leave or what have you. These shifts are still covered with the amount of people you say that's covered?
Correct. So if we have vacations, I do have officers who are out on injury. Some are going to be out longer than others, but we do not suffer staffing to our community at all. So we will either backfill that with overtime. So if we have someone that may be out for a month or 2, we will make sure we have the numbers to handle the calls for service.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So here I want to show you our 2023 and 2024 field services summary. And this is basically what did the officers do in both years. In 2023, 29,829 radio calls for service were handled by our officers. 15,211 of those calls were initiated by the police officers. So they were being proactive. They pull over a vehicle that enters as a call for service in the dispatch center. They make a pedestrian check. So give you an idea of the proactivity occurring. 2,830 arrests were made in 2023. So a total of 45,040 events were handled by our field services officers in the patrol division. 2,251 CCMC citations were issued in 2023, and 3,964 traffic citations were issued that year. Now moving to 2024, we saw some reductions. We had 27,177 radio calls for service. 14,472 were initiated by our officers. We made 3,011 arrests, which was an increase in arrests made. We had a total of 41,469 events handled by our officers. 1,931 CCMC citations were issued, and 4,294 traffic citations were issued in 2024. So what are the primary duties of our officers? Responding to emergency and non-emergency calls for service, proactively and reactively enforcing criminal laws throughout our community, conducting basic and complex criminal investigations, building relationships with the community while helping to contribute to the health and safety of our vulnerable populations, completing crime reports, testifying in criminal and administrative hearings, traffic enforcement and monitoring, as well as traffic collision investigations. So our CSO, which is a community service officer, and our PSA, which is a public safety assistant, that is a non-sworn uniformed employee, and they are responsible for conducting basic criminal investigations, collecting and booking evidence at scenes, completing criminal and non-criminal reports, issuing non-criminal citations. They assist with traffic control at collisions and major crime scenes, towing disabled vehicles, completing crime reports, and testifying in criminal and administrative hearings as well. Any questions on field services? So investigations, that consists of one commander, one sergeant, 4 detectives actually in our investigation bureau. Currently, we have 1 detective assigned to our gang impact team, which is a multi-agency task force here in the Coachella Valley. We have 1 detective assigned to our Coachella Valley Narcotics Task Force, which again is a multi-agency task force assigned in the Coachella Valley. We have 1 school resource officer who handles our schools here in our community, 1 crime analyst, 1 evidence technician, and that is where our 3 part-time background investigators are also assigned, and they work out of the recruiting side when we're hiring new employees. So in 2023, the Detective Bureau reviewed 418 cases and conducted 84 major case investigations. If this council recalls, since 2020, every single homicide that has occurred since that year has been solved by this Detective Bureau. We have no unsolved homicides since 2020, and including solving the cold case of Mr. Ramon Diaz back in 2018. So this Bureau does an outstanding job. In 2024, they reviewed 347 cases and conducted 65 major case investigations last year. If you recall, Deputy Chief Sanchez, in his presentation to you last week regarding our crime stats, we had a 10% drop in violent crime from the previous year and an 11% drop in property crimes from the previous year. So you may be asking, why are the numbers dropping? Crime has dropped, and that's a good thing for us in our community. 149 major crimes, including attempted homicides, home invasion, robbery, aggravated assault, domestic violence, sexual assault, child sexual abuse, child physical abuse, and burglaries were handled the past 2 years by our Investigations Bureau. Now I will move us to dispatch, emergency communications. So as you all know, that's 24 hours a day, 7-day-a-week coverage. It currently consists of 1 sergeant, 10 full-time public safety dispatchers, 2 part-time dispatchers. And looking at our 2023 numbers, the center took in 36,100 emergency 911 calls and 48,347 non-emergency calls for a total of 84,447. Excuse me. Looking at 2024, the dispatch center took in 24,588 911 calls and 41,684 non-emergency calls for a total of 66,000 272. Some of this call volume drop, if you recall, we were assisting Desert Hot Springs as they were going to build out their own dispatch center. So we had some overlap still handling calls for service in the city of Desert Hot Springs. So that's why you see higher numbers in 2023 than you do in 2024. Now we are only dispatching our police and our fire department.
Can you please help me understand how the 10 public safety dispatchers and the 2 part-time dispatchers are assigned?
So 2 dispatchers, so you know how I have 4 patrol teams, team 1, 2, 3, and 4? So I have 2 dispatchers on each patrol team.
Okay.
And then we have 2 dispatchers that work a cover shift. So they work I would say, half of a day shift and half of a night shift, which we would call a swing shift cover shift. Now, when we bring in, assuming it's approved by council, the 2 additional public safety dispatchers for the EMD Measure W funding, we will put 3 dispatchers on each of the 4 patrol teams for a total of 12.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief?
Yes, sir.
So I just did a little math, 840,447 divided by a year, that's like 230 calls a day? Is that?
We're busy,
That's
sir.
that's fire and
That's every
dispatch.
call that comes into that dispatch center. So it could be, it's emergency 911s, it's non-emergency. Any type of call that came into that center is recorded in these numbers.
And how many, again, how many dispatchers on a shift?
2.
Do they have a cauliflower ear? I mean, my goodness. That's a lot.
Well, we have these nice headsets, so, it protects them.
Thanks
So
for breaking that down. I had no idea.
They do an amazing job.
Yeah, thank you.
They do an amazing job. Any more questions from council on communications? Animal control services. So currently, as you know, we contract with Riverside County Animal Control. Our calls for service to them and throughout our community in fiscal year 23-24 were 723 total calls. As of February of 2020, I should say 2025, I apologize for that, we're at 468. So currently we are trending to go above and beyond the 723 from the prior year. Costs have increased. Our 23-24 costs were a total of $246,350. As you know, this is a part-time contract. This is 8 to noon, Monday through Friday. Anything after noon and on the weekends, we are paying overtime for that animal control officer to respond to our city. So again, year-to-date costs, which you can see will be trending upward as of January of 2025, are $232,559. So we are trending much higher.
Is that contract coming up soon?
Uh-huh.
It is.
And guess what?
And one of the
They're
goals,
going to ask for more.
one of the goals that council gave us at the council goal setting was to explore other alternatives. So I don't know that we will have that completed before our contract would come up for a renewal, but we could certainly discuss, if we can find a different viable option, we can certainly discuss, do we go 6 additional months with the county and then we move to a new program? We'll have to look at what our options are. I will tell you on the front end, they're limited at the moment.
Chief,
Yes, ma'am.
do any of the cities have an alternate plan?
They do not, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
DHS still has their own animal control?
They do, sir.
Still, so they have their own plan, I would imagine. And we looked into that, if I remember right, a few years back, having them work with us, but it wasn't viable, if I remember right.
We did. When I first came back in 2020, that proposal was on my desk. I want to say it was in the $1.5 million range, 1.2 million, somewhere in
Yeah,
there,
it was,
They have our own.
just to start up.
yeah. Thank you.
And we definitely want to, we had talked about it before, just really ensuring that they're delivering the services that we're paying for, to make sure that our community is safe and that the animals are protected. And so I'd be interested to see that contract again.
And
Excuse me.
that is something that Mayor Pro Tem Gregory will remember this, but we started a daily report from them where we were able to track that they are in fact doing what you all agreed to pay them to do. So we do have that information, and we do hold them accountable to that.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
As you-
And just
as-
for the public who's listening, they are up to their ears in alligators each and every day.
Well, just seeing the billboard on the westbound 10.
Yeah, let's not talk about that, Bill Morris.
You know, there's some serious issues with animal
Yeah.
control at the moment.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
All right, budget reductions. So our staff, Jennifer Nellis, our senior analyst, Deputy Chief Sanchez, and myself, we went through prior years looking at where could we make cuts. And I know that council has not specifically asked us for cuts, but I think it's our duty to look at how can we bring money back to the table. So through those multiple meetings and processes, if you look at the second row for 25, 26, reductions at the bottom, we were able to identify $97,372 that we believe we could reduce in our next 2 years budget cycle. If you move over to row 5, for budget year 26-27, we've identified $96,372 that we are not carrying forward in our next 2-year budgets. So I'm going to be showing you what I'm asking for shortly, but I wanted you to see where we found funding that we don't need to carry into the future. So where did we make these reductions? We decreased our copier maintenance and repair program by $4,000 because we ended the copier lease program and we actually purchased copiers. We were able to decrease $6,600 that we were paying for that. Telephone costs decreased $16,960 as we over budgeted our piece, what we expected to pay PSEC. So we were able to pull $16,900 out of that. Our field services, maintenance operations numbers decreased $66,000 in year 1 and $65,612 in year 2, and that was a flock adjustment that we had seen in our numbers that basically flock was put in there twice. So that was identified, we removed that out where we do not need to move that money forward. And some smaller decreases in membership software, cell phone investigation software, and that's where we currently are. Now I want to have you take a look at the additions that I will be asking for. So as you look at row 2, 2025-2026 additions, and I will bring your attention to the number $33,000 that has an asterisk next to it. That is an increase in uniform and safety gear because our plate carriers, which are ballistic plate carriers that stop significant amounts of rifle fire, and our helmets are coming up to expiration. So I'm looking for $25,000 in year 1 and $25,000 in the second year budget so that we can replace the officers' Kevlar helmets and plate carriers for that. If you stay on number 2 and you go down to the next to the last line, which is animal control, professional and technical services, I am looking to increase that $65,800 to cover what I believe will be the additional cost in our current contract. And then as you move 3 rows to the right of that in 26-27, we're looking at an $85,540 increase, and that's attributed to the animal control CPI that I expect will take place. So in a nutshell, what does this mean? If you look at the totals on the bottom, for 2025-2026, I am asking for $159,176 in year 1. Additional funding, and in year 2, I am looking for $229,930 in 26-27 budget year.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
in reality, for 25-26, if you deduct the 87,000, I believe, that you're actually reducing, it's only about 80-some thousand dollars increase.
I'll get there. I have another slide for that one.
Okay.
Always thinking ahead, aren't you, when it comes to dollars?
So this just explains where I am asking for the increases. Small increases in administration. I am looking to increase our post-training by 5,000 because that cost is also increasing over each budget year. We're looking to increase our field services budget by $7,500 to purchase ammunition. Ammunition, as you all know, or you may not know, is increasing every single year in cost, as well as additional TASER cartridges. And then in our uniform safety gear, this is where I identified $25,000 in year one and $25,000 in year two to replace the expired ballistic helmets and plate carriers, which should be one-time money. However, in my discussions with the deputy chief, this is something, as we do with tasers, we need to look at funding each year so that we're not going into a situation where our equipment is expiring. So look to get on an annual renewal. Maybe you look at 20% renewal each year after that.
Is that suggesting that the equipment lasts 5 years?
Correct. That's what the attorneys tell us. Everything has a 5-year shelf life. Does it mean it would fail? Not necessarily. Right.
They have longer life.
Right, right. We are going to come into a need for additional computers, so you can see I have minor requests of council in those areas related to upgrading our computers. We are going to see some increases in the PSEC costs, which is the tech support and our services user agreement. In year one, that's $38,619, and in year two, that's $39,383. In addition, they're building a pretty robust cybersecurity system for PSEC so that we don't have our radio system throughout Riverside County hacked by hackers. So while we're seeing some increases on that side of PSEC, as they bring on additional users, our user cost per radio is declining. And then, of course, my biggest ask is animal control. And you can see Kevin Biersack and I discussed this at length. We anticipate a 20% first-year increase in year one, which is $65,800, and it may be more, and a 5% CPI increase in year two, which puts us at about $85,540. I am asking to increase our CSO staffing. I came to council with our CSO program probably 2 years ago. You all were very supportive of this. It creates a significant additional resource to our police officers, and these individuals have the ability to take on work that allows our police officers to become more proactive in the community. I'm a firm believer that proactive police officers reduces crime. And I think our numbers have shown that over the years that I have been here and been back. So,
Chief, may I ask you a question on
Yes,
that?
ma'am.
So if the statistics are showing that the phone calls and the calls are less per year, why do you need another person?
because that allows our police officers to be more engaged and proactive. So whether that's more community events and or out there being proactive in their enforcement of our laws.
Chief, kind of piggyback on the mayors, we brought these CSOs on during the short-time vacation rental situation we were having.
Right.
So since that kind of eliminated a lot of that, so what other jobs have they picked up, or what other services have they started performing in to pick up the slack from the short-time vacation rentals?
So as you know, the STBR team was moved over to the City Hall side under the code enforcement job duties. And then after the STBR side and we brought the CSO position back, we brought on 2 CSOs. My goal was to have 4, 1 on each team. So what they are able to do is if you have an individual who is reporting, they've been on vacation for a week, they come home and they discover that their home has been broken into, That is not something that we look at as it just occurred. It's not a crime in progress. So they would go there, they could go take the report, they can process the crime scene, they can dust for fingerprints and things of that nature. So what that does is free our officers up to be more proactive with vehicle traffic, making arrests, handling crimes in progress type calls. So they are able to take a lot of the load off of the sworn police officers, which is why I would rather ask for more CSOs than come here and ask you that I need 4 more police officers. These people are worth their weight in gold in terms of what they deliver to our department and our community. Another component to the CSO side is that as you come into that position, and one individual, two individuals that we currently have now, they aspire to become police officers. So just as I brought the cadet program here back in 2016, we now have officers that were police cadets part-time. And this is another way for us to bridge that recruitment side where let's elevate them to that next level. We'll put them through the police academy. They've been with us their whole career, per se, and it gives us an additional stepping stone. Maybe they want to dispatch. Maybe they want to work in evidence, that side of life. So it just allows opportunities. Clearly, it's a lower cost than a police officer is to put out there on the street, but again, as I said, they pay for themselves over and over again.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. So my plan on this and trying to get to the 4th position, like I said, I currently have 2. I have a limited term PSA, which is a public safety assistant. My goal is to transition the current PSA to a full-time CSO now in the next couple of months. I have a vacant position that we're not going to fill. We would reclassify that position to a CSO. That would give me 3. And then in the next 2-year budget proposal, I would be asking for that 4th position to be budgeted beginning January 1 of 2027. So we would still save 25, 26, and half of 26, 27 in that 4th position if approved by council. And then the police chief at that time could then move forward and hire that 4th position in 2027.
What position is currently vacant?
It's a records specialist position. I have a few vacancies, but that's probably the one I will use. So again, in this request, I'm asking for half of a CSO in the 2nd year of our budget. So here's our budget. Councilmember Gutierrez, this might be what we were talking about earlier. So you see the budget additions are 159, 176 for 25-26, minus the reductions that we've identified of 97,372. So my budget request for 25-26 is $61,804. For 26-27, our budget additions are $229,930. Our budget reductions that we have identified are $96,372. And that budget request for year 2 is $133,558. Any questions on that?
Council, any questions?
So accomplishments for 2024. As we reported at our last council meeting, for the first time in my career here, we had no weapon-related or violent homicides in 2024. We increased our flock camera presence in the city. We currently have 25 flock cameras deployed, and we're looking to add an additional 5 after July 1st. So I haven't forgotten, council member. We provided regular and comprehensive reporting on the homeless liaison program, including results, status of cases, cleanups, and other services provided.
Pardon me.
Provided monthly report on the activity of the Traffic Bureau. And thanks to Mayor Ross, I was able to accomplish adding a CBAT mental health technician to our department through Riverside University Health System. And she put up quite a fight on our behalf, and that is greatly appreciated. We participated in 38 community and city events last year. These included LGBT Days, Pride Prom, Harvey Milk Breakfast, LGBTQ Plus Forum, LGBT Community Forum, State of the City, Cathedral City Peace Initiative, Cathedral City High School Scholarship and Awards, Taste of Jalisco, Boys and Girls Club Meatball Contest, which we won, by the way. Fire did not win that one. I have to take credit somewhere. Our back-to-school backpack event, which you all know has continued to grow. This will be our third one this summer coming up, and we greatly look forward to that. Our senior scam awareness program, Spooktacular, National Walk to School Day, Fields of Valor, Shop with a Cop, and Coffee with a Cop. We'll talk about goals, and as you all know, we had our goal setting with all of you in January. One of our biggest goals, and it will be a lofty goal, will be complete emergency medical dispatch training and implement EMD, hopefully by July 1st of 2025. This is a tall order for us, and I will give you an example. We have tested 22 applicants for dispatch. 3 have passed, and none of those are in background any longer. So I don't want to give council information that I'm ready to go July 1, because that is just not a realistic goal for us. We did meet with the fire department and the fire chief yesterday, and we're certainly working diligently to get that recruitment underway. We just need to find the right people and get them trained and put them in place. So I do hope to have it in place before I retire. That definitely will be a goal. One thing that we were asked to look at is develop a motorized bicycle on sidewalks ordinance, so that is something we will work with the...
I think so too. If you don't have the job done, you're here, buddy.
Don't be a quitter.
Interesting
And
conversation.
you don't have to develop that, just give it to the city attorney, he'll do it.
to do anyway?
But we will work with our city attorney on the motorized bikes on sidewalk ordinance. We're starting to dive into that a little bit, so I don't have a lot of feedback yet to give you on that. Again, expand the use of cameras and other technology to promote public safety by adding 5 additional Flock ALPR cameras, which we thank Councilmember Gutierrez for that. Increase police engagement in gated communities. We started that with the mayor last Saturday. All the feedback I received was positive, and I didn't hear back from you, Mayor, so I assume it was positive feedback.
I have a story to tell, but for another day.
Sounds good. As we talked about earlier, or as I talked about earlier, explore alternatives to animal control services. Again, I think our options are going to be extremely limited and or cost prohibitive on that, but we will see what we can come up with. We're looking to create a proactive crime impact team. This would be a team that Deputy Chief Sanchez talked about in his presentation, where we have a proactive team that can handle cases immediately. They don't get delayed. They're not waiting till Monday or Tuesday to get to an assigned detective. And give you an example, we had a sexual assault case yesterday involving younger people in our community, and our patrol sergeant and patrol officers handled that case. We were able to take the adult into custody, and that would have been a perfect case for a crime impact team to immediately take, run with it, do all the search warrants. So our patrol guys handled all that yesterday with the assistance of our detective bureau. We had a meeting this morning related to the real-time crime center. This is moving along very quickly. Our meeting this morning, we discussed locations that we would put the drones themselves. My plan on that before we join, and before I come ask for money down the road, is I will probably have Palm Springs PD staff member come here, do a presentation to all of you in one of our study sessions so you understand what the concept of this will be. But I will tell you what we saw today, what was quite impressive, and how we would manage this real-time crime center, at least on the operation of drones in the 2 cities. Another Another item that came from council was review and analyze event security. We've already begun that process as we had most recently LGBT days where we believed we were seeing credible threats leading up to that event. We worked every single credible threat to the point where we identified these individuals as not even being in the state of California. And then our staffing levels were significantly different, and our placement of barriers and things of that nature were significantly different this year than it has been in prior years. Oftentimes we feel it'll never happen here. Unfortunately for us, we assume it will happen here, and we need to be prepared for that, and we are. And then this goal for council will be replace the chief in 2025.
I'm sorry, that's a typo.
And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or
Council?
receive feedback.
I do have a question, Chief. Now, regarding all the arrests that were made in 2023 and 2024, how many of those were actually transported to India and or banning?
I'll have to get that number for you, because a lot of times they're cited and released. We bring them here, we process them, and we cite them depending on what laws were broken. But we can get the intake numbers from county for you on that.
And do you have a number as to how many cold cases do we have in the city?
Cold homicide cases?
Yes.
We can get that for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it for me.
I got nothing.
So let's open it up to public comment.
Mayor Pro Tem, I did not receive any request to speak forms, and I believe we have one member of the public, so I'll check one more time. Sir, would you like to make a public comment? And we have none.
All right. All right, council, anything else for the good of the order? Well, then I will adjourn this meeting and thank the police department and the police chief, of course, for the work they continue to do and for their work on this presentation and for your support staff for that too. So thank you, and we will see you at our next council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.